Please join me in acknowledging, frankly, the most powerful words that I've heard in a long time on these steps. And that was George Moscone's son talking about George Moscone. Let me thank the Milk Club for doing what San Francisco needs to have done, and that is to pause at every opportunity to acknowledge two extraordinary human beings who graced us with their presence as elected officials of this city for such a so brief period of time. The fact that 30 years later we would be pausing on these City Hall steps and then with a candlelight march up to the Castro to acknowledge their existence and their time spent with us is a clear indication of how extraordinarily significant they were in our lives and how we perceive them. As indicated by John, San Francisco was one day magnificently changed by the election of George Moscone, as well as by the election of Harvey Milk. This city has never ever gone back to what it was before those days and before that time period and before those two individuals. Harvey Milk begot Tom Amato, Mark Leno, Carol Migden, Leslie Katz, Roberta Achtenberg, just a whole host of gay and lesbian elected officials. George Moscone begot Art Agnos, Willie Brown, and in many senses of the word, the beloved and revered Dianne Feinstein. And for the last 30 years, a combination of all these individuals have been in our lives, one way or another, for or against, but they have been in our lives. That means then that these two individuals literally have shaped the nature of politics and public policy in this city. I must tell you, as a good personal friend of George Moscone's, for so many years, there was nobody that I palled around with in the world of politics like George Moscone. There was nobody who loved the city as much as George Moscone. There was nobody who loved being mayor as much as George Moscone. And there was nobody who on a daily basis tried to reward this city with his energy, his intellect, and his commitment, as did George Moscone. The reason I ultimately became mayor of San Francisco, because George Moscone had said to me, there is no other job in the world more rewarding than when your fellow citizens ask you to actually run their city. And he said, make sure you do run the city. Now, I took him at his word. And that's where the Milk Club and I came apart. But Harvey Milk, in every way, if given the time, in my opinion, would have done the same thing George Moscone did. Because after all, they were legitimate colleagues on that board of supervisors, and that was a board of supervisors made up of Dianne Feinstein and a whole bunch of other people. George Moscone's most reliable confidant and most reliable vote was that of Harvey Milk. Can you not now see how going forward in the future, if the two had lived, this city, this state, and this nation would have been a far more interesting place. And so, as San Franciscans, let us collectively celebrate the lives of George Moscone, the mayor, and Harvey Milk, the supervisor. No other city has been so handsomely blessed.